BHP After Dark, Season 2, Episode 46. Or as I like to say, Season 2, Episode 3. But,
Yeah, we got to change that online.
Chill. Hengist and Horsa.
Hengist and Horsa.
Who
are you?
This was filmed Mother's Day 2012. I'm Benjo.
I'm B. Good to see you, Benjo. I'm excited to get back on track, recapping BHP episodes with you. Mm-hmm. Bundle up. It's a little chilly out there, right?
Some would say.
Yeah. Hey, how about a remote episode tomorrow in Raleigh, or maybe Saturday morning?
In where?
Raleigh, North Carolina. Cary, North Carolina.
I just bleeped both of those out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Anyway, Benjo, you doing well?
Doing great.
Good. Always great to hear from you. Benjo, let's get right into it. Benjo, this is the story. We're getting into the actual story of how the Anglo-Saxon invasion or slow incursion, it was either one of the two or somewhere in between, which tells me it's probably somewhere in between. You know, an invasion is
in between 6.
You know, would you distinguish an invasion from a slow incursion? You know what I mean? Like an invasion happens kind of suddenly and you just take over. A slow incursion, it happens gradually over time, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking, I'm not even going to get into a lot of dates. Just know that we're dealing mostly with the mid and late part of the 5th century. By 5th century, I mean the end of the 400s. So you know what I mean there? Every time you hear 5th century, you think 400s. 21st century, you think the 2000s like we're in right now. You know why that is?
Because 0 wasn't a century.
0 to 1, correct. Well done, dog. So Jamie goes through some of the sources that we have. He mentions Nennius, Bede, and Gildas. These guys are writing. Some are writing in the 5th century. Some are writing in the 6th century.
Oh wait, no, 0 was a century. I said wasn't a century because we're in the 21st century.
Right.
Yes.
I knew what you meant. Yeah. I knew what you meant. But anyway, of course, the Romans have left our island here, right? And in the vacuum of the Romans being gone, the Irish from over here in Ireland, we hadn't talked about the Irish much.
The Irish are from Ireland?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Whoa.
I know. And the Picts from up here in the Scotland area start invading what we now know as England, all right? But the rest of the British, the island of Great Britain, okay? And so the Britons were unprepared. Essentially, Jamie makes them out to be kind of soft because they had been Romanized, right? And they were not, they were cultured. They were used to an easier life. And when the Roman protectors, the Roman government abandoned them, then they had to, again, we talked about, I think we talked about it last time. If all your technology was taken away, how long would it take you to get back? You know?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
We did. So anyway, the Britonners that lived in what we now know as England, which I'm going to really just, and Wales, which I'm going to basically say is anything on this island south of what we call Scotland. So they're getting raided. At first, it's by Saxon raiders on the coast. Okay, they had, even when the Romans were there, it sounds like they were getting raided here on the eastern southeastern coast, right?
So the SEC.
Southeastern coast, correct. And so, but the Britons now, they're alone to defend themselves. So these raids, before they were just raids, they would raid the coastal area and then go home.
Is that where the Raiders got their name from?
Yeah, that's what it means. Yeah.
Las Vegas.
And so now these raiders are now more emboldened to go further inland and not just raid, but establish actual settlements, right? And so because of this threat, the native Britners, they the Britners. Well, let's back up. Let's back up. The native Britners are being invaded by the Picts from the north and the Irish. Remember what I said?
Mm-hmm.
So to combat that, and I jumped ahead way too much. I'm sorry, but I'm just going through this episode. To combat that, the Britons hired mercenaries. We're going to be talking about a lot about mercenaries in our wrap up show. You know what mercenaries are?
I do not.
So they're basically troops for hire. So the Britons, the Welsh that live in what we now know as England, they pay some of these German troops from the continent to come over and protect them against the Picts and the Irish,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But as with mercenaries, you'll learn you mercenaries are only they're only as loyal as you pay them. So let's say the Picts and the Irish wanted to pay them more to be on their side, they would just go to fight with them. They just fight with whoever pays them the most.
Yeah.
But B, once you get them over here, you couldn't get them out. So they started slowly coming over and settling, okay? And so that's this story, basically, that Jamie talks about. So Jamie talks about one last British ruler. Well, he talks about a few of them, but one last, this is in the early 5th century, the early 400s, a British ruler named Aetius, who, when they started coming in, wrote to the Britons, hey, are you going to protect us? And they basically said, no, you're on your own, because Aetius was too busy fighting Attila the Hun, a famous raider from Central Europe, conqueror.
Yeah.
So anyway, it goes back and forth. Some Britons surrendered, some retreated to the woods and fought guerrilla style. Guerrilla, right.
It's a tactic where you surprise kill them.
That's right. You hide out and you don't like fight in open battle. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Jamie goes.
So the Britons they eventually defeated the barbarians who had been harassing them for years.
Right. So, but then the Britons were victorious. But it was
kind of like back and forth though.
It was back and forth, but the Britons were kind of debaucherous. The barbarians returned. Gildas paints this whole thing as divine retribution. The Britons defeated the barbarians. The barbarians are the German tribes, Saxons, Angles, and Jutes, and maybe some others. But afterwards, they got all just like Sodom and Gomorrah. They were just had no morals. And so when the barbarians came back, Gildas paints this as divine retribution, basically God saying, this is what you get for acting immorally.
Yeah.
You know, Gildas mentions a British tyrant. Sounds like a British ruler, but a British warlord, tyrant, king, whatever, we're not sure, named Vortigern. And a lot of this stuff we're talking about is not sure what's fact and what's fiction, right? We don't know dates. We don't know details about a lot of battles. Jamie mentions it. You do a quick Wikipedia search. It says some of these folks, they are debated whether they actually existed. But King Arthur, sounds like he, as King Arthur, probably did not exist. I mean, I think there's strong.
The idea, though.
The idea, he could have been a conglomerate of a number of different people. He could have been made up, but some of these could be basis for stories. King Arthur sounds like the only one to me that stands out that definitely wasn't real, at least in the form he's been portrayed, and certainly with the stories with like Merlin and Guinevere and and all that stuff. So anyway, Gildas thought that it was a mistake for Vortigern, who was the one that paid a lot of these mercenaries to come over and fight. He thought that was a mistake for the reasons I just said. With mercenaries, often it's hard to get them out, and you can't trust them, right? So
can't trust them.
So one of the stories is that in the year 449, so let's think mid 5th century.
So is this how it went? Did the Saxons or Angles arrive in
The south.
In the south on long ships?
3 long ships. Yeah.
That's written kind of
Yeah,
weird.
on 3 long ships. That's right.
Oh, 3 long ships. Oh, that's. I thought that was an S.
Yeah, I know. I can see that how you would think that. And who were they under the command of?
I mean, I'm just throwing something out here real quick. Hengist horsa.
Hengist and Horsa.
Hengist and horsa.
Yeah,
Okay.
brothers. Okay. And so they.
Wait. Please don't tell me they were supposed to be descendants of God Woden.
Of the god Woden.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, I know. Supposedly descendants of the god Woden. The Saxons quickly defeat the Picts. They do what they had been paid to do, right?
They're just doing the job.
And they sent word home back to the continent to the Germanic tribes. Hey, this is a really rich country. There's money, there's agriculture, and it is poorly defended because the Romans are gone.
They quickly defeated them.
Right. And so Jamie goes into, and I'm sure we're gonna talk about this more if my recollection about the whole thing is right. But we've got the 3 powerful nations from which they came.
SJA. You got the Saxons, the Jutes, and the Angles.
Right. So the Saxons of Old Saxon, a region in Germany. The Jutes from the northern Danish peninsula. Over here, we'll go up.
And the Angles from Anglia were mentioned by the Romans, but
yeah, the Anglia they were mentioned by the Romans as being in Britain, raiding in 406. What I talked about before was even technically before the Romans left, there were raids by these folks, but the Romans were able to protect them better at that point, right? But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about where they settled. The Saxons, they settled in Essex, right around here, Sussex, and Wessex.
Those are like the 3 main settings of the last kingdom.
That they are, I know. Well, and there's some more there. There's some more. The Jutes settled on the Isle of Wight right here, and they settled Kent, kind of in between Sussex and Essex. And I'm not great with geography, so y'all bear with me, and we're going to learn together on this. Because when I listen to it, when I was listening to these things, I'm driving down the road and I don't have a map right in front of me. So I've got the benefit now of looking at a map, right?
This guy.
The Angles they settled East Anglia over here, this little peninsula, Mercia, and Northumbria. You know about Mercia and Northumbria for the last kingdom, especially, right? So, like I said, they just kind of hung around and demanded more payment, threatened violence if they didn't get it. And there are accounts that they actually not only just wouldn't leave, but they actually slaughtered, like straight up slaughtered from coast to coast, like spread like rampage violence.
Just killing.
Right, just killing.
Just cold-blooded killing.
And the Britons that surrendered were enslaved. Others that didn't, they hid in the woods. You know what I mean?
Wimps.
And so this is one of the first mentions of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, by the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Although when the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle starts, they start writing about this time period, but it's about 300 years later. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's think. 750.
Yeah, and 750.
Somewhere around there.
But like back to modern day, 455. Vortigern. I'm gonna pronounce it Vortigern. Fought Hengist, and Horsat. Horsat was killed.
Horsa
was killed.
Hengist and Horsa. Horsa was killed, right?
That's an error.
And you gotta read my writing. But Benja, there's many dates thrown around here. All right. Mm-hmm. But like I said, Jamie lists like hella dates and battles But the main thing is to remember is the second half of the 5th century.
So close.
Yeah. He talks about, we mentioned last time, Ambrosius Aurelianus as one of the leaders that tried, a Romanized Britain that tried to lead the Britons. I looked it up on Wikipedia. And there's, if he was a real person, the legend is that he was a young man in the aura somehow of Vortigern. Okay, so they coexisted, which makes sense because we're talking about generally the same time period. But anyway, Jamie lists some battles. In 457, Hengist and his son fought the Brits, and then we've got battles just throughout the rest of the next half century. Jamie gets to a guy named Cerdic. And Cerdic was an Anglo-Saxon.
What a name.
Cerdic?
What a name.
Cerdic. Who fought in 519 and took Wessex, and is generally regarded as the father of the House of Wessex, the dynasty that ruled this one Anglo-Saxon kingdom. But he was really more of a chieftain of a smaller tribe.
Yeah.
It wasn't until decades later that there's a kind of an unquestioned first leader of a united Wessex. So Wessex is like a union of a bunch of little tribes, and then Wessex and 6 other kingdoms are the unions of all those. So you think back in the day, it's almost like I kind of think about it as like these medieval kingdoms that you think about in fairy tales. I'm sure it's not the same, but there's lots of them. So now we think of one England, but back in the day there were probably 100 or so, little kingdoms spread throughout.
Like, I mean, it's just kind of like would you pronounce it, or would it be like suburban?
No,
Urban?
I mean suburban would be outside, like the outskirts of an urban area. It was just everything was rural kingdoms, which suburban is on the way to rural from urban. That's good that you know that.
So, but they weren't really sure if or when the battles happened.
Right, Benjo. And so around the year 500, Aurelianus led the Britons in a large battle. Again, we're not sure if this happens.
But it says it was led by Alfred.
Well, it says basically there are some people who interpret the story of, or basically the legend of Alfred as being based, at least in part, by Ambrosius Aurelianus.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. What are your thoughts?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay. We don't know much about the Battle of Baden or Mons Badonkis. Or Battle of Baden Hill.
All we do, but one of the little things we do know is that the Britons were victorious.
Right.
They won.
They were victorious, and there was peace with the German tribes, at least, for about 40 years. Now, there may have been inner conflict with the Britons, but peace with the Germans for about 40 years. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
So, Benjo, we're going to, as I mentioned to you before, we're going to fast forward a bit, and I'm really working on exactly how that's going to look before we get back into picking up the actual story from Hengist and Horsa and Ambrosius Aurelianus and all these folks.
Yeah.
So, Benjo, it's been real, dog.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean,
let's do this.
Let's keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
Complete disarray.